A. Written by Aze. 1. At Chinkau Hall, there was an unwritten rule that no one was to leave the premises without the hall master's permission. To do so was considered a betrayal of the sect. Strictly speaking, Chinkau Hall wasn't a direct branch of the Wushan sect, and Master Chui wasn't appointed by the Wushan sect. To assert his authority and affiliation with the sect, he established this rule. Fortunately, the hall was deep and expansive, though simple. It had courtyards within courtyards and clutter upon clutter, making hide-and-seek the disciples' greatest entertainment besides eating coarse grains and pounding herbs. Whenever the hall master was away, the disciples celebrated as if it were New Year, engaging in endless competitions to determine who would clean the latrines, feed the pigs, sweep the yards, and so on. Essentially, all the chores could be decided through games of hide-and-seek. Erzi was one of the younger disciples. Since being sent to the hall by his parents at the age of 6, he had rarely ventured beyond its gates. Over 10 years, his days were filled with nothing but eating coarse grains and pounding herbs, without any real martial arts training. Even if he had the desire to learn, there was no one in the small herb hall to teach him. Clumsy with both hands and feet, if he were to seek others after dark, it was like being blindfolded, stepping into boundless darkness, falling into an abyss with no end, not knowing where to go or what to do. The others didn't even need to hide. They would just gather around and jeer, leaving him to clean the latrines, feed the pigs, sweep the yards, wash clothes, or do other tasks until the hall master's next departure. On this particular day, as Erzi carried a freshly cleaned chamber pot into the hall master's inner chamber, he heard that Master Chui had left early in the morning for Maisu Mountain to gather herbs, a trip that would take a full 30 days. At dinner, everyone came to congratulate Erzi, cheering him on for potentially breaking his own record of consecutive days cleaning the latrines, which stood at 32 days. Aside from Erzi's clumsiness, his roommates, Siki and Beilai, were equally inept, but they were thick as thieves. When Siki played hide-and-seek, Beilai would secretly disclose others' hiding spots. In truth, tasks like cleaning latrines and carrying urine pots weren't difficult. They were just part of the disciples' daily duties. But when such work was labeled as idiotic or brainless, it became more than just a job. Mockery could ferment and sour the nature of any task, and over time, it could wound one's self-esteem. As Erzi slowly realized his own timid and foolish reality, it became a source of great annoyance. Thus, when the plain-looking 16-year-old was surrounded by congratulatory peers, his spirit utterly collapsed. He had hoped for the hall master's departure as an opportunity to select a new unfortunate soul, but the smiling faces around him threatened to destroy his last shred of hope. Erzi skipped dinner and returned to his quarters, hoping to feign illness and avoid the game. However, Siki, Beilai, and the other brothers dragged him out and threw him to the ground. Furious, Erzi looked at them without a word of protest or explanation. He was fed up. None of them were true friends, and so he was once again forced to join their game of hide-and-seek, his heart ashen. After a game of finger-guessing, the eldest brother, Basie, became the first unlucky one. Basie was the oldest and tallest among the disciples, with the quickest reflexes. To increase the challenge, he blindfolded himself and counted to 10 before starting the search. He methodically checked the likely hiding spots, catching Erzi first, but instead of calling out, Basie shook his head and continued his search, seemingly letting Erzi go, which moved him deeply. Later, Basie shouted he had caught Dengui, the second brother, whose agility was on par with his own. Rather than being caught, it seemed Dengui had revealed himself intentionally, having evaded capture several times before. Dengui was quick, but he only sought to catch the third brother, Huang Lian. Huang Lian was the same age as Dengui, and they had a good relationship, often eluding capture together, fulfilling their desire to run and jump around the hall. Knowing that the next patron might be the third brother, Erzi could rest for a while. By then, night had fallen completely. To add to the fun, no lamps were lit in the courtyard, and it was as dark and quiet as if one were blindfolded. Occasionally, there would be a rustle to the east or a clatter to the west, followed by silence. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Old Turtle, you tricked me." It turned out Dengui couldn't catch Huang Lian and, seeing the incense stick burning down, grabbed Beilai to be the next unlucky one. Now it was Beilai's turn. He struggled to grope his way to the sixth courtyard and climbed the steps under the roof of the third medicine room. This corner was the hardest to find and hide in, chosen only by the older or faster disciples. Disappointed, Beilai found no one there and made his way back, passing the herb-drying area. He carefully climbed up to the hollow of an old tree in the side yard, under the dim starlight. He saw the entrance blocked by debris and guessed no one was inside. As he was about to complain about Siki's hiding spot, he heard a faint rustling from the hollow. Beilai froze, unsure whether he wanted to hear more or not. The courtyard was silent, and the stars twinkled through the branches above. Torn, Beilai, who was half a year younger and just as timid as Erzi, would have been the one cleaning the latrines if not for Siki's help. Now, caught between advancing and retreating, he mustered the courage to climb down, convincing himself there was no one inside, perhaps just a mouse. Before he could rejoice in his decision, the hollow emitted a soft rustling. Taking a deep breath and sighing in resignation to his fate, Beilai resolved to catch whoever was hiding inside. Climbing into the hollow, he moved the debris blocking the entrance and stared into the pitch-black space, seeing nothing. As he hesitated to reach in, a shadow suddenly darted out, causing Beilai to scream and fall from the tree. The shadow emerged from the hollow and quickly descended the tree, disappearing into the vast night. Beilai's scream drew the hiding disciples out. While they condemned him, they couldn't say much. Not catching anyone meant just that. As the incense stick continued to burn, everyone hid again. Unsurprisingly, Siki revealed Erzi's hiding spot, and Beilai caught him. Now it was Erzi's turn to be the true unlucky one. The others' spirits lifted, and they gathered around to tease him. In the pitch darkness, facing their mockery, Erzi tried to grope his way forward. Suddenly, Beilai spoke up, telling everyone to be quiet and see how far Erzi dared to walk. Beilai stood in a corner not far ahead, and as Erzi approached, Beilai swept his leg. Sometimes, courage is born out of desperation. The next morning, as Erzi cheerfully climbed the stone steps of Wushan Town, reflecting on the previous night's events, he couldn't help but smile broadly. Here's what happened. Whether to avoid ridicule, preserve his dignity, or escape latrine duty, Erzi sprang up from the ground and lunged at the person who had tripped him. Naturally, he missed, but he shouted as he groped forward, one hand guarding his face, the other flailing blindly. After stumbling through the courtyards and falling twice, he grabbed onto someone's clothing. It was clearly a person, and he clung on tightly. The person made strange noises, their bodies soft and their clothes fine. Without a second thought, Erzi yelled that he had caught someone. Then, with a slap, a burst of light appeared before his eyes. Erzi shouted, "You hit me even after being caught. I want to see who you are."